Hey guys and girls, just waiting for everyone to check in online for us to go live over on Facebook and for Instagram. So thanks for tuning in, everyone, and good to be back in Sydney and here to entertain you all tonight. So yeah, today I want to cover off a few different things. One of the normal sort of topics, which is just the news, what's happening out there, a few different sorts of topics to discuss. Obviously, answering questions in from the community. I've got one topic of discussion, as per the description in the Facebook video, which is what entity should I be buying properties under? Yeah, so just checking out all of our messages coming through. So it's all going off. We've got Facebook requests, people coming on board, people saying hi. Michael, hope you're cool. Always trying to be cool. I've got the heater going actually in the background. Vic, hey Nathan, New Zealand is in lockdown again. Sounds about right. Who would have thought we would see this second wave? It's actually a really interesting video, which I might look at on my other device here a little bit later and share with you because it was pretty scary watching it. But yeah, it's interesting, this second wave that's coming through, and hopefully everyone in Melbourne is doing all right, and all those in New Zealand which are stuck in lockdown again. Why would New Zealand be back in lockdown? I don't know. It's the first I've heard about it just on here about New Zealand being in lockdown. Yeah, I thought they said everything was fine beforehand. Hey Adam, hope you're doing well. Hey, everyone else, cool. Now I've got everyone here. I want to discuss a couple of things today. I've had a lot of people ask me about silver, gold, and precious metals. So I want to open up for a discussion today around the precious metals sort of market, talk a little bit about that, answer some questions that you guys may have. Uh, no cool hat or shirt today. No, it is Michelle's birthday, so she may or may not be watching this. Just a bit of a shout out to Michelle from the Queensland office. If you haven't already bought your properties over to Blink, there is a promotion going on at the moment called Michelle's 21st. If you bring your property over in the month of August, you get free landlord insurance, and the gift of landlord insurance is just that within itself, that no one can actually get access to landlord insurance. I manage properties all across the country. My office in Queensland, it was something that I started there last week when I was with Michelle in the Gold Coast office, and I thought I'd extend to everyone across the country. So if you do have a property, you want to make the switch to us today, hit up with my team. There's a promo going at the moment for Michelle's 21st, and that's why I had my fun hat on last week. So here we go. Cool. Wow, must be news straight in. I've never heard it. I haven't heard of this yet. So Vic said there's 4 cases of community transmission. The whole country is in lockdown. Auckland is level 3 lockdown again. Scam, scam, scam. Bill Gates just left. That's why. And Michelle is online. So everyone, say happy birthday to Michelle. So even on her birthday, she's here. That's commitment. That is commitment. So. Yeah, so I will show a video a little bit later on to everybody, which is very, very utterly scary. But I just thought I'd share with you this photo that I took last week. Sorry, just stuff's happening on my screen here. I always talk about the paddle pop, right? I've talked about the paddle pop that used to cost 80 cents in 2008. I used to smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Every time I go to the servo, I'd pick up a paddle pop. And every time I'd buy a pack of smokes, I'd buy a paddle pop. For those of you that don't know what a paddle pop is, it's just an ice cream. The ice cream used to be 80 cents, went up to $2, went up to $2.40. When I stopped smoking, they were $2.40. I picked up a paddle pop last week and told you it was $2.50. And on my way back home to Sydney, I called into a Coles, right? Into a Coles, and you couldn't, you'd think Coles would be like the cheapest sort of ice block that you get out there, but no. Here we are, very clearly here for everybody. $3. Fucking paddle pop, $3. If that's not inflation, don't know what is. $3 paddle pops now. What else is being inflated around your neck of the woods? I'd love to hear it. I've got a bit of a topic here to discuss. I will get onto some of the questions there about my thoughts on what's happening in New Zealand and all that stuff at the moment, in a moment. I was sitting waiting the other day and I was like, I want to see what the silver value was, what it would buy. So if you break down like what an ounce of silver is, maybe I have stuff sitting around everywhere. This one's not even actually a silver ounce. Maybe there's something else here. I don't have any here. But, oh, maybe. Let's see what's in here. Oh, actually, here's a little silver coin here. It's a bit more of a specialty one. This is like a 1 ounce silver sort of coin. It's got 31 grams of silver attached to it. And yeah, with it, I was thinking to myself, what about a 3 pence? What about a 6 pence? What about, a shilling? What sort of content did they have? I'm not a fan of junk silver. And I was sitting there with a bit of time to kill. And I started researching in Australia, what would 3 pence buy back in the day? What would a shilling buy back in 1950s? And as I started to dig to what things used to sell for, the cost of bread, the cost of milk, the cost of sort of everyday sort of belongings and consumables, I came across some articles which were really interesting. So this one here was from Business Insider. For those of you that can't see, lighting's a bit different here in the new house. This goes to say 5 charts which will show how the cost of living has changed in Australia over the last 100 years. It says here, life is getting more affordable for Australians. Cost of living pressures for Australians are easing while things are getting more expensive. Prices remain relative to the income. Australian insurance provider Budget Direct recently put together this interactive chart, which looks at the cost of living has changed in the country over the past 100 years. It takes into account soaring inflation rates and wages to see how prices stack up in 5 categories: income, rent, house prices, petrol, and shopping. When we're so caught up in the day-to-day spending, it's easy to feel like we're not getting value for money on our hard-earned cash, says Brad Seymour from Budget Direct. Goes on to read, the weekly income for Australians has grown exponentially in the last 100 years. In 1910, the average weekly income would be approximately equivalent to $197 today. The average income looks to be $2,815 a week in 2030, but only time will tell how far that money will go. Goes on to read some other stuff, which wasn't my exciting part here. The part that got my attention was this chart, and it's all these graphs below. And this graph goes to read, almost half our average wage was spent on rent in 1910. So just think about that, right? In 1910, if you're a tenant renting a property in 1910, it would cost half of your income to rent that property. Now, however, it says rents up a little more than a quarter of the average wage. A similar scenario is expected for the year 2030. So it's saying that wages are rising, but rents, well, that's going a bit too far, don't you think? So this little chart here, you can see 1910 was on this side, today is here. So the rent is less than your income expenditure nowadays than what it was in 1910. So if we went back to half your rent going from your wage, that would mean there would be some large rental increases coming through, which would be really, really cool. There's other things in here. It says house prices have been on an incredible trajectory, growing faster than both inflation and wages. By the year 2030, it may even take 5 years to save up for a home deposit. If you have a look at that chart, that is the fun part, because at the later parts of our currency death spiral, you will see that the velocity kicks in and increases much higher. So that's the fun part that I'm looking forward in the future here. It says here, if you have a look here, I'm just going to show it on Facebook and then Instagram. there's two lines. You have the white line, but then you have a trajectory, which is where they're expecting it to go. So house prices are going to hockey stick upwards on their trajectory on this example. So interesting to see that here we are with the media now talking about house prices on a trajectory heading upwards. Want to go to another interesting article, which is what things used to cost in 1950s, because we all know things are getting less and less. Aleen's, red Freddos are becoming more expensive. You're getting less in a pack, and they're becoming harder to get. So in the year 1867, bread was 5 pence. 5. I always get confused with the metric system. I'll post this in Birchfeed, guys. For those of you that aren't in Birchfeed, join into it. Go to birchfeed.com. It's free. After this, I will take a photo of it and I will send it to Birchfeed so you can refer to it. Basically, everything stayed the same all the way throughout history for bread. Was all the same all the way from 1860s all the way up until the 1950s. 1960s it started to change. So here we had 3 in 1901. In 1911 it was 4. In 1940 it was 5. In 1950 it was 8. In 1960 it was 18. 1970 was 21 cents. As we go into 1980, it goes into 54 cents, so it doubled in that decade. In 1990, it doubled again to $1.37. In 1999, it doubled to $2.30. So yeah, every 10 years, everything is doubling, and the cost of goods is going up a lot. If we have a look at what else, what the conversions are here, so 12 pence is 1D equals 1 shilling. 20 shillings equals 1 pound. 1 pound is $2 in today's currency conversion. So this is where we've seen the shift from the metric system, from the imperial system into the metric system, yeah, it's just an interesting time as we start seeing the change of our social fabric that makes an economy as we are, how we interact as we are. This is a new change that everyone says it's the new normal. This is a new world order. I'm not trying to get tinfoil hat conspiracy theories on you guys. However, when you see videos, I'm going to look it up anyway. Bill Gates laughing interview. I will find it in a moment for us. I haven't seen this whole. Actually, no, let's leave that for the moment. Guys. I'll send it in Birchfeed a little bit later. Going to look at something very scary that's about to happen. It's my last. Don't dish my tinfoil hat, hey? It's funny how all the people that say that the tinfoil hats are now, the ones wearing the masks and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's interesting to see what they look like. But this here is an article. My lighting's not the best here for Facebook, apologies, which is from Newsweek. The article reads, a $10 trillion corporate debt bomb is waiting to explode the US economy. So if you guys want to pull up this article, feel free to. This is almost 1 year ago that I was making these videos and saying to you guys something weird is happening. The repo market from about the start of September started purchasing up the central bank, New York Central Bank or Federal Reserve started purchasing up all the repurchase agreements to the tune of about $100 billion per day, which is the biggest stimulus package ever. Which no one's ever talked about in the official numbers of where we are still in this market. This goes on to read, even before the pandemic reached its height, the IMF was warning in January that the world's largest economies, like the US, were unprepared for a slowdown. Fast forward a half a year with millions of job losses and thousands of businesses gone bankrupt in the US because the novel coronavirus, we'll call it that word because it's not that other word that we can't refer to. The word slowdown is inadequate to describe the scale and speed of the economic collapse. and the pandemic could yet throw another grenade into the economy, a massive corporate debt explosion. The American economy has lived on debt for a long time. The ratio of the total debt of the government, businesses, and consumers relative to GDP has more than doubled since 1980s. Record low interest rates following the 2008 financial crisis further swelled the debt significantly. US companies owe more than $10 trillion, which is nearly half the country's 2019 GDP of $21.5 trillion. So if we look at the amount of debt that's being printed, doesn't matter if you're a country, a government, a corporation, there's so much debt being printed. The worst investment out there at the moment would be a bond. You're literally going to get your money back, and it's going to be worthless. You're not going to be able to buy anything with it. Yeah, so it's just why would you want to be buying these junk debt bonds? Here we are looking at the level of debt that I think when Trump came into office, it was like 17.5 trillion. That was like 4 years ago. I think he's up to about 28 or 29 trillion dollars worth of debt. He said he was going to remove. Got a question there. I will get back to you in a second. But yeah, he said he was going to clear the debt. But here we are in 2020. He's going in for re-election shortly, and the debt has gone up to almost 50% more than when he came into office. It's uncontrollable. You can't pay this debt off. We're going to see the currency implode. Jeezy said, hey Nath, a bit off topic. Do you think interest rates will drop below zero and cause inflation? Yes. I noticed that you just said that you knew around here. I've been talking about this for a very long time now. We will see negative interest rates. When that happens, I was expecting it by now, but I was not expecting the level of stimulus packages coming into the marketplace that they are doing at the moment. So, so with it, just looking at what else, I'm going to leave that for the moment and get back to some of your comments. One really interesting thing is everyone's been asking me about silver. Right? Silver prices are going up, gold prices are going up. Should you get into it? Should you not get into it? Look, I've been investing into precious metals now for about 20 years. I was buying things like silver and gold before I could sign a contract. I remember I was 15 years old, went out to Blacktown in Western Sydney and purchased after school, bought precious metals before there was internet, before there was anything else, because I thought that the shiny metal was cool. Interestingly enough, a lot of people out there going, oh yeah, the market's going to implode, all this sort of stuff. What are my thoughts on it? What am I doing at the moment? How am I preparing for what may occur? I personally think that silver's a good metal. Am I, selling a property and putting in there? Am I putting a deposit into silver? I've been purchasing that stuff since when it was like $2 an ounce, $3 an ounce. It's gone all the way up to nearly $50 an ounce. Currently, it went all the way back down. So if you looked at silver and you bought it in 2012, there were so many experts out there saying that that there's going to be a currency crash and to put all your money into silver and the precious metals. Those people are still waiting. At the start of this year, silver was $20 US. The high was about $50 US going back 10 years ago. People at the moment, I think it's about $30 US because the Aussie dollar isn't as strong. It's more expensive. So it's about $40 Aussie dollar. That's paper contract. If you can get it, that's another story. So yeah, is it a great investment? A, it doesn't bring in cash flow. B, it's very speculative. C, it is something that, if you're sitting there in 1980 when it was $50, I actually did some research into it. I was chatting to one of my mates I went for a drive for about 9 hours each way the other week, probably about 6 weeks ago. We were watching some videos talking about this sort of stuff, and I was like, Google it for me while I'm driving. Check out and see what silver sold for back in 1920, and when we researched it, it was selling for about $18 in 1920, right? So it's been heavily manipulated throughout many centuries. Silver used to be what they would base currency on. Gold was not really used as a currency. It was used for a hedge of money, but silver was used as currency. Nowadays, silver is used in the devices that you're watching this from, solar panels, all different medical uses. There's literally like 10,000 different sort of uses for silver. If the price went up, all your technology would go up, and there would be a larger cost base there for everything. So it's important to try and suppress the price of silver. Should it be higher? Yes. Will it go higher? Who knows? One interesting point is to check out the COMEX. So what's happening at the moment is the paper contracts getting manipulated so far that there's about 3 billion talked about ounces of silver out there above ground on Earth. Silver is a byproduct of many different metals that is extracted from the ground. It normally comes out as about a 1-to-9 ratio to gold. However, gold is used for necklaces and jewelry and heirlooms and for storage of wealth, whereas silver is being consumed a lot. So there could technically be up to like a 1-to-2 ratio or a 1-to-1 ratio, because people consume it, use it, throw it back in the ground, it gets put into landfill and waste and never reconsumed. So looking at the amount of silver that's on above ground in Earth, it's really hard to tell. But if there was sort of like 3 billion ounces of it, the other day in the COMEX, on one trading day, there was over 1 billion ounces traded, right? No one was selling it. You can't even buy it anywhere around the country. Look at every mint around the world. They've all stopped production. I posted in a Birch feed the other week the fact that JP Morgan and HSBC blocked the ability for the Perth Mint to trade. Anyone that was buying from the Perth Mint, they blocked their bank accounts from purchasing in there, because they're the ones that are suppressing the price of silver. It is said that due to the fact that the swinging has occurred in the price so sharply recently, that there could be a run on demand on silver in the next 6 weeks in the silver market, and the gold market as well. So it will be interesting to watch. Should you be out there buying and hoarding metal? I think it's great to be purchasing whenever you can. I certainly own lots of it, and I store it. The biggest problem for me is storage of it, because I've got it stored in so many different locations. You've got to hide it and make sure that security and safety, and you don't want to go trust a bank. You've got to go find facilities that you can store it at, and whatnot. But should you go out there and purchase a lot of it at the moment, I don't think that's the smartest move out there. Can you get access to it? It is very, very difficult to get access to it. None of the bullion dealers out there have access to physical metal at the moment. The coin shops are all sold out. The prices are at a very, very high price at this point in time. Will it go higher? I believe so, but the best time to buy this sort of stuff was probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and whatnot. Same thing is occurring for other sort of commodities and instruments such as cryptocurrencies. Like Bitcoin is traveling around the $17,000 price range at the time. Is it time to go out and buy Bitcoin now? No. Bitcoin was a great time to be buying 2 years ago when it was trading at $3,000. Will it go up higher? I believe it will. Am I giving you guys financial advice? No. Should you go out and run and buy it? No. For things like precious metals, cryptocurrencies, I've always just been accumulating, whether it's $500 here, $1,000 there, $2,000 here, $500 here, $200 there, whatever it is on the day. Sometimes I might spend more in a month than what I would in another month. Sometimes I won't spend anything in a month, and sometimes I'll spend a lot more. But I wouldn't go and take $100,000 and go and place 50 grand of it in one day into it. I accumulate in all different fashions, all different methods. I was actually thinking about the other day, I've actually got storage facilities in every state, storing this bloody metal. So in all different capacities. So it's interesting. Got some questions here. Will rural commodities drop back to lows and allow the boom to proceed like in the 1980s? I think everything's going to get inflated away in this period of time. The cost of everything is going up. Tell me something that is not going up in value or is going down in value. There is so much money printing going on. inflation. Inflation is the key, and that's the only way for them to get through this period of time. I talked about it with so much conviction 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Everyone said, Nathan, you're off your head. Why are you being so excited via negativity? And I saw that when we get to a point, it's like checkmate, and the only way for them to get through this is by printing money. Is either to let the whole thing blow up or to print money. If everything imploded, everything would be cheap and it'd be a great opportunity. If everything got inflated away, all of my debt would become worthless, all of my assets would rise in value, and I'll become a lot more wealthier. So I've got to think of how a banker works. I've got to walk like a banker would walk, and understand that that's a part of the ecosystem that I'm in, and having the knowledge on that is really vitally important. So Christian, hey Nathan, would love your opinion on why you think the property will not tank with the rest of the economy. Thanks always for the quality content. Thanks for the question, and thanks for watching. Look, very, very simply, right? There's so many people out there saying the property market will collapse, and so many people saying the property market will go up. This is a very interesting time. The market actually crashed in 2016, 2017, 2018, and started recovering in the middle of 2019. It's not about the market, it's not about what the news says, it's not about any of these things. It's about the amount of liquidity going out into the system and the amount of liquidity being taken away. And we went from a quantitative easing perspective from the years from 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 into 2016, 17, where they started quantitative tightening and rolling back the liquidity. That's when we start to see asset prices tank. Every year I give my predictions as to what's going to happen in the property markets around the country, nationally. And in 2017 I said, look, I'm not going to be doing this for this year, and I haven't been able to do that for the last 2 or 3 years. What I said was that we would see the whole market nationally be suppressed. And then when I started to see the tide turn, I said we're going to see one of the biggest booms we've ever seen in the life of humanity. And that is where we're at the moment. We've got interest rates at 0.25%. We have got the cheapest money out there ever. They're giving free money. You're getting free money to buy a house, free money to keep a house, free money to renovate your house, free money to employ your staff, free money to keep your business alive, free money for your taxes. If you can't pay mortgage, don't worry, you can put it on hold. If you're going to go bankrupt, no, you can't. You've got to change the ruling around bankruptcy laws from 21 days to 6 months and $5,000 to $20,000. So there is a lot of reasons there to push up this economy. We are in inflationary depression. We are in inflationary depression. Normally when we see a recession, it is a deflationary cycle. We've already seen a deflationary cycle because we've lost control of the money and the currency that we use. I saw a question beforehand, when will we see we sent a recent, I was just thinking here, someone sent a request to be in the video. I don't know if that means to share the video or to watch the video. I was going to push it, and also imagine if someone pops in the video. So yeah, we are in a position of we've lost control. Someone asked me beforehand, when will we see the currency lose control of the currency? We lost control of the currency a long time ago, and it is just expediting. It is getting quicker and quicker for us to lose control of our currency, i.e. the dollars around the world that we use. So yeah, with it, I am going to read a few of your questions, and I'm going to talk about the question in the message box here beforehand that I put up. The question that was the main question today was, should you buy a property in your personal name or under a trust? I will get to answer that shortly. I'm going to go through some of the question boxes here as well. Evening, Nathan. Welcome back to Shitney. Hey, Nathan. Hey, Andrea. Vic, about New Zealand. Tony writes on, we're considering building a duplex, and I'd like to know more about your experience with this investment option, i.e. successes, failures, pros and cons versus buying an established properties, overall thoughts on it, etc. Tony, good question. I will answer that and break it down into a few points. If you're buying a finished product, someone, i.e. selling you a property, generally you're paying a premium for doing so. You're going to be paying a premium by there's a lot of these spruikers out there at the moment. They're property experts. They say that they're wealth experts, whatever the case may be. I see them happening all the time, popping up on my Facebook. Someone that's like, doing something totally irrelevant to the industry, and next minute they're, kitted up and they're like, I'm an investment guru and all this sort of stuff. Selling these off the plan properties is, they get paid 50 grand, 60 grand to sell you that property. I always talk about buying properties below market value, having an upside for capital growth and a strong cash flow. If you're buying it above market value, instantly you're behind, right? If you've not got upside for capital growth, then, if you're paying a premium, it might take you 10 years for it to catch up to where its real value is. If it doesn't have a strong cash flow, then it's going to be costing you each week. So make sure that you're not buying a packaged up piece of dog shit. Someone asked me today, I had 2 map sessions this afternoon where both of them had said that they'd spoken to these new home people. Why don't I recommend buying these new properties, etc. I buy new properties at times, but I don't go buy those off the plan things, right? Because they don't make you money. When I buy properties, quite often I buy something 10 years on where some poor bastard got suckered into something that paid 350 grand for it. I'm picking it up 10 years later for 180 grand. I'll pick it up for half the money they paid for it. It's renting out for positive cash flow on the money that I'm picking it up for. They've carried it through high interest rates, negative gearing, selling at a loss, and then suddenly the market starts to boom at that point. So if you're buying those things packaged up, glossy brochures, magazines, brand new properties, generally you're going to be taken advantage of from some spruiker. You're going to ask yourself, how's that person getting paid in order to justify their service that they're delivering to you? And generally it's you paying for it. You go on a little, a glossy brochure, a cool car, a nice suit, and these people have got you for the rest of your life or for the next 20 years financially and screw you up. So seen a lot of people get into trouble on that front. If you are buying a block of land and building a duplex yourself and making that as your investment, there is some good opportunities to do that stuff. I've certainly done that with some of my investors where we've bought land wholesale. So buying land wholesale below market value, going out and getting a builder to buy in bulk, so you get the builder to build the houses cheap. Did one recently. I was actually on a phone call with one of my investors the other day who had I bought land for him for 330 grand. He's building on it for about 550, so I owned it for about let's say 900 grand. After holding costs and some other fees and charges and whatnot, looking at about 950. These things are worth about $600,000 at completion. So 600 is $1.2 million. Into it for 900, 950. You've got a good 250 grand profit there, which is cool. My investor said, should I sell it? Should I keep it and rent it out and pull the equity? And I said, let's wait until it's finished and reassess your position from a lending perspective and overall position to see, is it more advisable to keep it or is it more advisable to sell it off at that period of time? The pros and cons. The pros is that you can make money. The con is that you could blow your hands off. It depends how you structure the deal. If you'd like to chat more about it offline, we can work out a bit of a strategy around that, and make sure that you don't blow your hands off and you do make profit. A lot of the time I speak to people and they're like, I want to do a development or whatever. What you got to remember, the biggest negative to it is if you're going to be putting, say, 200 grand into doing a deal, you might make 200 grand on it in 12 months time. You've got to sell the property off to realize that in that period of 12 months, opportunity cost, right? At this point in the market, I am not building any properties myself. None. Zilch. I can build and develop on a lot of my sites. I choose not to. I'm putting more money into assets which are going up in value and accumulating more assets. If the market was to double tomorrow, would you want to see $1 million double into $2 million, or would you want to see $5 million double into $10 million? So building out that asset base to go through this next market cycle is crucial. So for me personally, not building any duplexes at the moment or any sort of properties at this point in time. I will get back to your question, is what are my overall thoughts on that word that I shall not mention, the corona scamdemic. I will get to you. I've got a lot of questions. I've got one here from Jason. What are your thoughts on what is happening? Aileen is saying happy birthday to Michelle. Thanks for everyone. Shane is online and he's saying free Queensland blink. Landlord insurance, contact me to see how easy it is. So yeah, feel free to reach out to my team. Flick us a message. If you sign up, bring your property over. Most people that have properties, I'm assuming half of you people that are watching have got investment properties. If you have an investment property, you can have a slimy real estate agent manage it. You can have my team manage the property for you. If you'd like to have me and my team look after your property, we have got a promo where you get free landlord insurance if you bring your property over this month. With it, Adam wrote, rip-off bastards love a good paddle pop. Well, we're going to be able to afford paddle pops soon. We're going to be able to afford paddle pops with our stimulus package that we're getting. Just to answer the questions as to what do I see going on at the moment, what do I make of the whole situation, I believe what we're seeing is a cover-up. How many people have we been have died this flu season? How many people have what is the agenda behind this, right? Is it by coincidence that Snapchat has had those chicks with the little masks and stuff on as a filter for 2 years? Is it by coincidence that we were in an economic crash and a crisis beforehand where we need to print lots of money? Is it by coincidence that if they tried to enact any of the laws that they've got in place at the moment without this scamdemic going on, you'd be seeing people with their pitchforks out going after it. Now everyone's begging for this totalitarian, fascist, communist society that we live in. We've got agendas being pulled at the moment, left, right, and centre. You've got lots of conspiracy theorists out there saying it's 5G, it's this, it's that, it's the next thing. What is it? I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that we've got lower death rates from the flu season this year. We are in the middle of the flu season anyway. Are those test kits correct for the scamdemic? No, I don't believe so, right? I've done a bit of research into that. Can I be sure on that front? Look, I'm not a medical professional, so there's my disclaimer, right? But you ask me what is my take of all this. I believe that there is a changeover from a currency. We've got a currency crisis on our hands. We've got a depression, which the only way to get through is to inflate and to print our way through this. And they are enacting all of these textbook sort of fascist, communist agendas in order to get through this period of time. At the end of this, I believe we're going to see a special drawing right from the IMF. You're going to have to go to the International Monetary Fund to go and raise a special loan to pay out for all the expenses that's gone through this period of time. Everybody will be thank you for saving us, thank you for saving us. We're going to have new cameras that are going to do facial recognition. We've got new social distancing, which is keeping people separate, and there is an agenda which is some sort of satanistic sort of agenda that's coming into come into play. Got lots of other questions in here at the moment. What are your favourite suburbs in South Brisbane / Logan? I purchase properties all the way from Tweed Heads all the way through up to the top of Cairns. I'm not an area specific sort of person. I'm looking for a property that's going to make me cash, and it's going to bring me cash flow, and it's going to perform the task of what I need the property in order to do. So, yeah. Jason, Nathan, today I've got a block of chocolate for $5. For $5 back 6 to 8 years ago, I swear it was $2.53. It's definitely gone up in time. It's interesting. Gemma, hey everyone. Hey Gemma. Now it costs $1 for bread. Interesting comment you make there, Dwayne, about the $1 for bread. If you go to Woolies and Coles, that's their lost leader. I'd hate to imagine what you're actually getting for that bread. Think about the food and how it tasted sort of 10 years ago, how the food that you're consuming tastes now, what sort of nutrients in there, all that sort of stuff. Those milk and the bread, I feel like they've got as lost leaders in there. If you go and buy any sort of half decent bread, you're looking at sort of $5, $6, whatnot. The 1960s 50-cent coin was made of real silver. A year later, they recalled them because it became too precious. Exactly. Give me 2 seconds. It's interesting. You talk of those 50-cent pieces. I had some just sitting on a table here. For those of you that don't know, that's what a 50-cent piece looked like in 1966 when they went from the pounds to the pence to the dollars and the cents. Those things about a week ago were selling for about $12, $14 for those round 50-cent pieces. Round 50-cent pieces now are selling for $20, $25 out there. No coin shop has them, funny enough. So yeah, it's interesting. 50 cents back in 1966 was made out of 80% silver. It's got about 13 gram content. 100% purity would be about 10.5 grams in there. Yeah, interesting times. That's what the inflation has really done to your currency. That is a prime example. That's 1966. That's like 54 years ago. 50-cent piece now worth $20. The silver content in that, 3 of them would equal 1 ounce. 1 ounce is about $40 if you get it. Most 1 ounces are selling for sort of $50 out there at the moment. So 130 $50 would be sort of $16.60. So, 50 cents has turned into $15-16. So, Michael, you got any more webinars coming up, mate? The last one about buying under market value was cool. Cheers for that. Yes, Michael, I do. I do monthly webinars. I said that I'll do monthly webinars for this year. So sometimes my schedule is pretty crazy. Like last week, I was traveling throughout different states, and just reading all the questions here. Sometimes I have back-to-back webinars and Facebook Lives and whatnot. But I will have the next one. For those of you that would like to know more about that, reach out to my team, flick us a message, subscribe at the B.Invested.com.au website for newsletters and upcoming sort of events and stuff like that. So the team will reach out and let you know about that. So keep an eye out. Talking too much. Need a breath. Jason, what's your thoughts on mindset? Whenever I say I want to work hard and buy an investment property, my parents always put me down and complain that we'll never have a house. What do you suggest to stay positive at the start and stay on the path to be free? Jason, look, it's interesting and good question that you asked me that. I think at the start when I first started investing, my mum was really excited. She said, bless her. And she was really excited and said, my son bought a property. He's 18 years old. And I bought my second one. She's like, he bought 2 properties. He's like 18 years old. And then third one, she's like, no, you're going to screw yourself up. I bought a third one. She's like, oh, they're so bad. Fourth one, she was like, you're going to go bankrupt. Fifth one, she was like, you've lost your mind. 10th one, she was like, you're not my son anymore, right? She didn't really say that, but she was like really greatly concerned for me. And I had to separate myself. And nowadays I talk to my mum and she's like, I don't know what the fuck you do. I don't know how you do it. And she's supportive. And all she says nowadays is, go have children and all this sort of stuff. So, it's parents will care, parents will be fearful, parents want the best for you. Generally they do. But you got to look and think, if I do what someone has done, I'm going to get their result. So, I had lots of people in the early days give me their opinion, give me their 2 cents. Maybe if they gave me their 50 cents, it would be worth a bit more now. But looking at, mindset and listening into that, you can listen to them. If your parents don't own a house, if your parents are, negative, you don't want to buy into that. And you can't disown your parents, you can't disown your family, so I'm not suggesting to do anything like that. But, when it comes up to certain subjects, maybe you've got to pick your conversations better. Don't talk about it to them. Just, do what you need to do. If you have clarity and focus on what you're trying to achieve and clarity and level of understanding of where you're going, all you need to do is, do the hustle and get there. Nothing in life worthwhile is ever easy, right? Like everyone thinks, oh, Nathan Birch, he's got all these properties, he's successful, he's happy, all that sort of stuff, and that's cool. But it didn't come without, the hustle. And, I didn't become successful, partying up and getting bottle service at the back of a club. I didn't get successful from, partying on a boat, right? It comes from habits. And if you have good habits, then you will be successful. Quite often I speak to people. I speak to people from all different sort of backgrounds in life and walks of life. And, it's interesting to see, right? Like you've got a pretty Anglo sort of name, and I always talk to migrants, right? There's so many migrants that come into this country, and they're like, I'm coming here for a better life. I've come from another country. It's shit. I want to be here. I want to make well. I want to set my family up. I see migrants most of the time that come to me, and probably like half of my sort of business and community is migrants. And looking at their background, they could have any excuse. They can be like, well, it's not just right for me. I don't have any family here. I've only been here for a couple of years. English isn't my first language. I couldn't get a job. But they just hustle, right? They just hustle, and that's what's really cool, right? I see so many beautiful stories of people that came here less than 10 years ago and they've got 10 plus properties. And it's like, if a migrant can come in the country and do your job and take your job and buy property in your country that doesn't have a community around them, right? Like, imagine if you're born here, you have your family, you have a kid, the husband and wife can go work, they can get the parents to look after the children, whatever. You've got, support. People are coming and they don't have that support, right? And they can still get ahead. So, listening into, other people's opinions and whatnot, that ain't going to pay your bills, right? Having clarity on, where it is that you're heading, having clarity as to the actions that you need to take, and actually committing to those actions and taking, that's what will speak. So if if your parents or friends or family or colleagues or whatever are telling you you can't do something, that's cool. Just don't bring it up to them and just do what you need to do. But, if I can do it, I was born, I had 24 hours a day in my clock. Other people in the community, are in that same position, right? We've all got 24 hours in the day. You stab us, we bleed, we drink water, we've got to go to the bathroom. Our lives are very much alike. A lot of it is up in here as to, the stuff that we program ourselves with, the options that we take, the actions in our day-to-day lives that we do. In the hours of if you're doing a 9 to 5 job, you can do 9 to 5 and come home and watch Netflix. You can kick back, you can go party with your mates, you can go do whatever the case may be. But that will be representation of your end outcome. You could spend that time hustling on a side gig, you could do a second job, you could build a business, whatever the case may be. So don't worry about other people's opinions, because they're not going to pay the bills. Just focus on what you need to do, and that will ultimately show at the end. A lot of people turn back from when I was younger. Some people say sorry for doubting me, and that's cool. Sometimes people come back and say that I'm lucky, which is offensive. And people say I'm lucky. I'm not lucky. I just fucking made the right decisions and took action on it and made the sacrifice and commitment that I needed to do. So just do that. Huge unit. Hey mate, your main focus is on our currency becoming devalued and cause property assets to rise, and I agree. Would you still be able to hold current market value property into the next 10 years and still benefit, or do you need to buy below market value at this time? I'm not seeing any cheap properties. I was thinking 2021 with all the businesses suffering big time. Will they possibly be around in 2021? Where do you see the next 2 years in both capital cities and major regional centres? Thanks heaps, brother. Thanks, Hugh. Looking at, I'm going to answer that in a few different parts. Yes, currency is getting devalued. That is my message that I want everybody to understand, and especially this changing market. It's not the property that's going up, it's the currency that's losing its value. So you need more of that same money to buy the same asset. But would you still be able to hold the current value market properties? Any properties you get at the moment in 10 years time you're going to be looking back going, shit, there's going to be so many people suicidal thinking, I didn't take advantage of 0% interest rates. I didn't take advantage of being able to buy in a capital city for under $1 million. I didn't take advantage of properties at $200,000. How many regrets do you have from 10 years ago? Do you have a regret that you go, oh, I didn't buy a property in 2008 for 200 grand, it's now worth 800 grand, I can't get in the market, etc. I don't hear too many people saying, I'm so glad I sold my property 10 years ago, right? And that's just due to the fact that it's not how it works. Sorry, my phone's going sick here with just heaps of messages about some deliveries of stuff that's coming through. So just before, it's got about like 70 messages come through. Been shopping too much. With the ability to buy properties, and the reason why I buy properties below market value, and I think it's very, very important. Reason buying properties below market value is crucial is so you can, there's three reasons. One is to minimize risk. So if a property's 200 that you're paying and it's worth 250, the market has to step back 20% before you start losing money. So if you're picking it up below market value, you've got a risk minimization strategy put in. Second one is that you're making money always on the way in. The third one is that you can go back and pull that equity out of the property and be able to redeploy that into another property. So if you have 50 grand today, and that's a deposit for a property, how are you going to get your second property? You're going to need to go and save up another 50 grand and buy the second property. It might take 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, depending on your situation. If you could go back and pull out that equity and get that money back in 6 months' time, you can buy one now, buy another one in 6 months' time, pull that equity out, buy another one, and you can build that portfolio much quicker. So if a hyperinflation occurred, the cost would be rising much quicker, and the velocity and the speed of that would be happening much quicker, and it would be harder to obtain the assets quick enough, and you'd be paying a lot more for future assets. My position is set, right? When the hyperinflation comes through, cost of everything's going to rise in value. I was going to be like, oh, well, I've got chips, what am I going to hand in? I'm going to swap this bottle. There's 10 cents that you get for it, right? The water, what's the water? It's worth like $1, right? So I could maybe sell this bottle tomorrow for $1 and I'll get the money back for what I paid for the whole bottle of water yesterday. And that would be the real fun part of a hyperinflation scenario. Will cheap properties come in 2021? Good question. So yeah, I will get to the question about trust versus personal structuring. I'm just reading a whole pile of questions here, so we mix it up a little bit and answer everyone's sort of questions as well. So, will 2021 be a time to pick up properties on the cheap because business is suffering, everyone's suffering? They're just going to keep printing money, guys. Don't expect that they're going to take away the stimulus packages. Don't expect that interest rates are going to go up. Don't expect that everything's going to get back to normal. We have got an implosion of our currency here. I'm actually seeing messages come in on all different devices here that New Zealand has had 4 cases and it's got 12 hours to go back to this commie sort of lockdown. And my view on this, right, if we think about what I said 6 months ago, I said between July and October we would see something else happen, and that was that we're going to see a crash, right? If at this point everyone goes, well, we can take the stimulus packages away, and it ties very neatly into the question here, is if they were to take the stimulus packages away, what would happen to the economy? Yes, technically it would occur. Everyone's going to start, doing all their corporate accounts, right? This is accounting season, and all the companies out there have to do their tax returns and report on all their profits and losses for the year. If they start reporting that they're insolvent this year from all the activity that they've had or not had, we're going to see a big run in the market. So if we go down to some sort of crisis, we can mop the floor and say, look guys, we've got another scamdemic happening. We need to lock everyone in their houses. Let us do whatever we're doing. Like whatever they're doing, I don't know, right? I'm not going to get into the conspiracy too much on that front, but it's another reason for them to print more money, get it out there through the economy, get people spending. So Lindsay just asked over on Instagram, can I get back to the question about buying properties under your trust or your personal name? And that is a main part of the conversation today that I put in the heading here in Facebook, and it was something that the community had asked about. So should you buy properties under a trust or under a personal name? Just firstly, with a little disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not an accountant, so I can't be giving you trust advice, I can't be giving you the financial advice around this, but I can look around and talk about some scenarios. So personally, for me, I see it as a twofold. There's pros and cons for having under a trust or having under a personal name. Generally, a lot of accountants will try and sell you a trust or a corporate structure. They'll say that you should have a trust for all your properties. They will say that some will say that you should have a trust for each and every individual property. The reason being is that accountants, how much do you pay your accountant for your tax return? Your accountant gets charged what? A couple of grand, a couple $100, $500, $300, $1,000. Accountant does a lot of work throughout the year for their clients, but don't actually, get paid and rewarded for it. And I know, like I run an accountancy firm. I've got an accountancy practice, and you know, looking at the amount of work that goes in, right? The most underpaid people out there. Everyone says go and send their kids to be a doctor, an accountant, or a lawyer. An accountant, doing tax returns and all that. They don't get paid that great for running mum and dad tax returns. So there is a couple of, shoddy ones out there that all they do is spruik, doing a trust and a corporate trustee and a structure. The reason being is that they get paid extra fees, right? They might charge an extra $1,000 a year for accountancy fee to keep that entity alive. I speak to people every day, investors, new investors that come in for map sessions and strategy sessions. I speak to my existing clients, and it's the importance of having the right team around you, because you need to make sure everybody's on the right page and on the same page of your success team. Looking at some of the scenarios I've seen, I was talking to someone probably about 2 months ago, and they had a block of land. They were going to build a house on it, and they're going to rent it out and all this sort of stuff. And they had it under a trust. I said, "Oh, look, just swap a few things around with it." And then they told me it was in a trust. And I asked them, "Why is the property in the trust?" And they go, "Because my accountant told me to put it under a trust." And I was like, "There's no reason as to why. You're not a brain surgeon causing fucking death to people, or you don't have a high risk. Why did he suggest?" And he goes, "Oh, from a tax perspective, it'd be better." I'm thinking to myself, you've got to make a profit, to pay the taxes and to minimize the taxes. But the worst part about it is that this property was in New South Wales, right? So this person owned no investment properties, but owned this one. And it was a block of land that had no income, no cash flow, and it was under a trust. That meaning that they have to pay land tax of a few $1,000s a year, like $4,000 or $5,000. So it's got no income, it's got expenses of the mortgage, got expensive accounts rates, got no cash flow, and then it's got land tax slapped on top of it, which was really a bum steer. Like if you were to hold that property, and if that person was to able to hold that property under their personal name, they would be under the land tax exemption threshold and not having to pay land tax on that. So you've got to look at it from a tax perspective and an asset protection, because most people buy their properties under a trust from an asset protection standpoint or a tax standpoint. If we break it down as to, there's a third element that most people don't even look at. So everyone looks at it from a tax perspective, and they look at it from an asset protection or a legal standpoint. But there's a third perspective, and that's where I'll come in and talk about the neutral side of it in the end. So the benefits of putting it under a trust is that, let's say for instance you've got 5 properties, and you put them under a trust, and you've got a husband and a wife, and one of them is on a big income. Let's say the wife's on the big income, so people don't call me sexist on a video. The wife's got the high income, guy's at home looking after the kids. The situation would be is that if the guy was paying all this negative gearing under his personal name but had no income, then it would, like, dispersing that tax liability would be an issue. If you were to sell the property off, and the guy bought the property before he started being a household dad, and then he became the household dad, and then he's not working, and then the wife is at work earning the higher income, they go to sell the property off. The husband now can disperse the tax profit to his name and minimize the taxes, while the wife would be paying a higher amount of taxes. So you have the option of who the beneficiaries are of that trust to disperse the tax liabilities. Equally, on the flip side of that is that you've got to look at capital gains tax exemptions. If you're buying a property under your personal name, there is a capital gains tax exemption by buying under a personal name. Looking at land tax, in most states there is a land tax free threshold under your personal name, whereas under a trust there isn't. So you could be paying land tax in a trust which isn't sort of called for. I do note that Instagram is about to run out. I'm going to pop back on with Instagram just so we can be on the same topic, guys. Everyone's checking back in on Instagram. So looking at the next issue from when it comes to a trust, is a trust right or not for you from buying your properties under? If the property is positive cash flow, then it could be a good option to buy the property under a trust. However, if the property is negative geared, then those tax losses, those tax credits that you could be getting, could be better having under your personal name. Because if you're creating a tax loss within a trust, then those tax losses are going to be captured in that trust and you're not going to be offset against your wages. So from that perspective, it can be a detriment by having a trust on that front. As for buying a property under a trust for a legal perspective, a lot of people think that they can be protected under the trust, which the same messages come through. Everyone's popping back on Instagram Live. Greg, Instagram Live cuts off at 1 hour, so I had to restart. It wasn't your missus. From a legal perspective, it puts an extra layer of protection there to protect you in case of someone trying to sue you or someone trying to attack you on a financial basis, etc., etc. So there is legal protection there. Equally, I have seen people get sued within a trust that own a property because they've been sued personally. So there is ways that you can be attacked with inside a trust. It may layer an extra few fences in front of you to help you in a point of litigation, but it's not foolproof. There is some ways of being foolproof. There's things called a Bloodline Trust, and I don't want to go into too much details because it is more of a legal and a taxation question, and as always, it's not a financial taxation or legal advice session here, just talking about property investing and weird and wacky stuff. However, there is benefits to having a trust, there is detriments to having a trust. All in all, there is pros and cons. It's a third element that people don't talk about ever when it comes to trust. They always look at the tax benefit, they always look at the legal benefit. I personally own properties under my personal name, I own them under trusts. I've got about 80 different sort of corporate structures that I own different assets under, different businesses under, different properties under. So I've structured myself in all different ways on that front. If someone wanted to go, it'd be interesting because I don't even know all of my own entities myself, right? It's lucky I have them stored in a cupboard, not behind me at the moment, but I have them stored in some places which sometimes are behind me. Looking at the third parameter of buying a trust or not, you need to look at the finance perspective because that's where it's really going to become ugly. If you want to build a rapid property portfolio, when you're buying a property under your personal name, it is deemed as a personal asset that you're acquiring. When you buy a property under a corporate structure like a trust or a company name, it is now a company loan and it becomes a commercial sort of by nature. So there is extra elements and it makes it harder to actually get the financing and stuff like that. So if you want to build a very fast property portfolio, do consider a trust, but at the same time, notice that it may hurt you from an acquisition speed of being able to accumulate so many quick properties in quick succession, because the finance is much more harder from buying a property under a trust as it would normally be and naturally be under your personal name. So there are pros and cons for buying a property under a trust or under a company structure. I think it's important to speak to your accountant. If you don't have a good accountant, you can hit up my team, speak to Ridwan Hannon. He's the principal accountant from One Path Accountants. He's a gentleman. Accountants are normally boring. I look at Ridwan and an accountant in general as being the protector and being the bodyguard for you being extorted from the communist state of Australia that we are from, or New Zealand if you're from that fascist state as well. So we're all going to be just from the same sort of state soon, because we're all under the same rules, regulations, and communist beliefs that we are controlled by now. But looking at from a tax perspective, feel free to hit up Ridwan, reach out to my team, flick us a message if you need to speak to him. If you want to speak to Stephen Sidorovsky from Zenith Legal, which is my law firm, send us a message as well, and we'll put you in contact with Steve Sidorowski to have a chat with him to see if it is the right thing for you or not. But do take into consideration before you do anything by setting up a structure or not setting up a structure. Consult your accountant, consult your lawyer, consult your financier. The financier is the one that people don't think about that often, and it's the one that screws them up. So looking at the large property portfolios out there, I would probably say that 95% of my investors that have the large property portfolios have built them under their personal name. So yeah, the larger the portfolios, most commonly they're built under their personal names. There are ways of protecting yourself, such as if you have a loan or a secondary mortgage or a third mortgage or a caveat over the property to another entity, there are different ways of being able to protect yourself and other people's interest by doing such things. So yeah, make sure that you just don't go to an accountant. You need to make sure that everybody is in sync with you building a property portfolio. If you don't have the right team, the accountant might be saying, let's do the lowest tax return, you're going to be paying the lowest amount of tax. The finance person saying, well, you don't have any income, you can't get a loan. Your lawyer might be saying something way off in the opposite direction. Everyone not in sync, you're not going to get a successful portfolio build. It's like having a business without having everyone on the same page. It's a recipe for disaster. So got here a question from Insta. When do I think fiat currency will fully disappear? I don't think it'll last this decade. Be lucky to last 5 years. We are heading into a cashless society. I have seen silver disappear, right? As I was saying before, and I've seen silver like literally, right? I continuously look at it. It's part of my day-to-day things. I don't talk about it all that often. I've literally seen that fly off the shelves, right? Like if you thought toilet paper was bad, go and try and buy silver at the moment. You can't buy it, right? I'm talking about, at spot, impossible. Go and purchase an ETF of that sort of stuff, which is just a derivatives or electronic traded funds. This is where there could be a collapse in the system of the derivatives market imploding when there comes to an order to fill in to actually collect the physical silver. So someone coming in and saying, look, we want to take possession of 500 million ounces or 100 million ounces of silver, we want to collect it today, and them not being able to provide it, that could create something very, very interesting out there, whether a total collapse of the system or a skyrocketing of an asset, and they're the sort of things that could fully implode the system. If we can't even go and find, the mints aren't making coins, right? If you think about it, and if you're a coin collector or whatever, even those little shitty coins and notes from this year, there's going to be minimal amounts of currency being printed because they're closing the mints all around the world. Every mint, all the mints around the world, there's only a few private mints that are open. All the communist crown, queen-backed Commonwealth sort of mints around the world, they're all closed due to people being scared. Some of the mints are in like military bases, right? And they're scared of Corona coming, right? They can't keep it out of there, so they've got to close down the mints, right? There's a lack of currency, so no one's taken the currency. People are saying that that we're not taking cash. So yeah, I personally think we've got maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years. But I don't think that we'll see it last this decade. Like 2030, I don't think we'll be using cash. Will it be a chip in your brain and your forehead, as the mark of the beast and the rapture would say? Time will tell and common sense will prevail, but there's a lot of Satanist forces which are out there, without going too biblical with people today in the market or in the world. Jason asked, Nathan, what is your thoughts and mindset, which I already covered. Hugh said, also, I have an immaculate hairline, fucking mint. I appreciate that, and I try and make sure that I've got good hair, and it's good. It's good. A lot of my siblings have gone bald very early, so yeah, it's a bit grey, but that's all right. I'll take the grey. Chicks love it, apparently. Michael, banks are pushing hard to fix mortgage rates at the moment. Interesting, I haven't seen that maybe because it might be becoming more competitive to move loans in the future and being able to restructure debt. As interest rates go down lower and lower, it'll become more affordable for people to be able to obtain a loan, and the servicing will become stronger. So, Tamaya, what do you predict will happen to the loans if the dollar collapses and a new currency takes place and dollars are owed but we no longer use dollars? Will the banks just take any assets with money owing? It's such a confusing topic. Good question. It's not every day that we lose a currency. I think there will be a changeover period. I think this will not just play out all overnight. There'll be a point where where I see the currency losing complete value. People have no confidence in it after they can't, use it for anything. People won't want to own that currency. We'll probably end up in some sort of social credit, digital illusion of wealth, where people are going to be tracked and traced and tagged, and you be a good person, some sort of communist CCP style sort of currency, and eventually, they will merge and roll over to this. Like, they might even still call it the dollar, but it'll just have an extra zero on it, or it'll lose its value. So it's got to go through a lot more pain before it totally dies. I was reading the other day on the Venezuelan boulevard that currency, which has been hyperinflated away. You could buy an ounce of silver, like we're talking about silver beforehand. An ounce of silver is like $50 here, let's call it that. In Venezuela, before the hyperinflation, it was 60 bolivar, so it was $60. Let's call it $60. Some people sold off their assets, going, wow, I've made a lot of money. They sold it for 150, 200, 300 bolivar, and they feel like they've hit jackpot. People are literally doing that at the moment. If anyone's selling their property, they're going to look back and fucking hate their life, right? If people are selling off anything that they've got as an asset now, if you're not accumulating in whatever you're doing and you're getting rid of assets, you're going to look back in the future and be like, shit, I shouldn't have done that. To buy that same ounce of silver that sold for 60 bolivar like 5 years on is now 7.2 million bolivar, right? And that's the extent of how that currency collapsed and crashed. Would you, does that mean that the currency had crashed and just disappeared overnight? No, people saw that currency crash. We will see, I personally feel that we'll see a $50,000 a year income go to $1 million, but your Big Mac meal will cost you $300, and your quality of life. What we've seen in 50 years worth of inflation will probably happen in a 10-year cycle. This is going to be a very, very interesting decade. This is not a decade to be missed. This is like sometimes people will be waking up at the end of this and you're going, fuck, I missed out at the early 2020s. I was listening to Nathan, he was crazy. I thought he'd lost his mind on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or wherever you're watching this from. And I should have done this, or I could have done this different. Just watch for the signs, right? Don't go out there and rush and make any decisions. Just look for the signs, see what is happening out there as the currency slowly dies and comes to a slow, painful death. That is ramping up. It has been dying for the last 49 years. A currency is dying quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker. So, interesting. But I don't think that the banks will come and take your properties. They need you as the slave to work, pay for that mortgage, and pay down that currency. They will clear their books before this mess is over, right? All the rich and the elite and the wealthy people will want to settle their positions. I personally will be paying out all of my debt very easily at some point in the future. Just not today. Now is a time that's very great, I believe, to hold debt, which is why I'm holding lots of debt. And there'll be a day where that debt will become worthless, and I can pay it off for a bottle of water that's worth $18 million. I can pay up my debt for $18 million, and happy days. So, yeah. Michael, New Zealand just announced stage 3-day lockdown, stage 3 starting tomorrow. They have 4 new cases in the first 4 in the 100 days and shut the economy again. It's crazy. Um, weird question as well. What does someone in your position do for fun? When you level, what does life look like apart from work? Good question. I have fun with everything that I do, right? There was points in my life where, I went out and bought Bentleys and cars and had heaps of chicks and all that sort of stuff. And I guess that was level for part of that was fun for a period of time, and partying and drinks and going out and having fun. But is that what fun is, right? For me, I have great joy out of what I do, like being here, making YouTube videos, Facebook videos, Instagram videos. I get a kick out of that, right? Being able to share, and what's exciting. Is that all that I do for fun? No. I like. I'm a pretty boring person if you take certain things away, but I love learning. I love growing. I live life on my terms. I don't have a definition of a day off or a day that I work or not. Right? On Sunday, I was laying on my floor looking at the backyard. I had about 200 ducks. I had about 50 cockatoos out of my backyard. And I was like looking out. I was like, that's cool. I hadn't left the house all day. And that was peaceful for me, right? And Sundays, I'll be out. Like last Friday, I went out with some mates and had a few drinks and had some dinner and all that. That was cool. But all in moderation, right? Like I've got to go out in the backyard and do some farming soon and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, with it, all different things that I do for fun. But I guess ultimately, being able to live life on my terms, doing what I want to do when I want, how I want, is a level of fun. Whether it's collecting properties, whether it's going around seeing my trades, whether it's seeing things happen that are cool. Like last week I was in Queensland and I see that half my team is here again on Tuesday night. I found that fun, going out and seeing my staff and having a chat and building things and working on things. Most people, you know, I guess people have fun working on a car or doing something, building a car or playing sport. Sports just bore the shit out of me. For me, I just like making things. I like growing things. Like sometimes I do really, really weird things. Like the other day, I needed to clear about 7 acres of trees, and I wanted to start with the low-lying bush on this property. So I go out and buy some cars for. I'll post some videos of these just for the fun, right? I can go and excavate the trees, pull them down. Sometimes I use like a winch and tie two trees together with a winch and just see the trees pop out of the ground, right? That's cool. Sometimes I'll get four-wheel drives and fly straight through trees and knock the trees down in that fashion. So, yeah, like I get fun out of driving a car into a tree. At my last property, I knocked out about 500 trees with one Mitsubishi Pajero, right? People will be like, what the fuck, Nathan's off his head, right? I bought the car for $815. I was able to sell it for $200. If I stripped the Cadillac converter out, that would have platinum in it, right? If I wanted to go and pay someone to remove the tree, it might cost me a few $100s per tree, being on acreage. A few $100s per tree might cost me for a new excavator or a new like posi track or whatever sort of excavator or digger to knock down trees. It might cost me 50 grand, 100 grand, 150 grand, which would probably be the most efficient way. Or I could just start knocking the trees down with a car, right? Very, very off topic, very, very random. But you ask me, what does fun look like? I just find life fun, right? I find going to a meeting fun. I find, helping people and helping people achieve their own goals, right? I find that fun. So, all different things. A bit off tangent, but I did um, answer that question. Matt just asked, what about platinum? I just talked about platinum. Go buy yourself a Cadillac converter. But yeah, I like platinum. I don't own too much of it, but I do own a bit of it. Stephen said, bullion now in Melbourne, so I managed to get 10 times 1,000 ounce silver bars. I did see them actually. They were big, sort of $40,000 silver bars that they had. The larger the bar, the harder it is to sell it at the other side. So the premiums are much lower. Where you get some collectible grade stuff, you can get a higher premium and make a greater return on that side of things. And when we go through hyperinflation, I will share with you guys and girls, some of my, journeys on that front, and I've got some ideas for in the future about, possibly even having a bullion shop. I have recently looked at getting my own bar stamped and having my own series of bars, which could be something of an interest. But I don't know if I've got time or could be bothered doing that. But yeah. Alex, what do you think of the defense? It was because the whole world is printing money. The hyperinflation effect won't be as severe because the world will all inflate similarly. Tongue twister. The every country around the world, right? Our dollar may remain strong. However, that doesn't mean that the cost of goods won't go up. So I personally believe that we're going to see, the US may print a bit more money. The US Aussie dollar changes. The Aussie dollar goes down because they're printing more money. Each country around the world will be printing money, and they'll stay relatively, from an exchange rate perspective, quite similar. But the cost of goods to be buying in that local country or state or position will become much harder as the cost of goods just continue to rise. So I don't think it will affect much. I still believe that we will go into hyperinflation. It will be interesting to see whatever happens to US dollar, because that is base currency of the world. Luke, hey Nathan, how much does the size and there's a land size matter for townhouse price in capital cities? Sydney, Melbourne is being closer to train station, heaps more factor price than land in your experience. Good question. Good question over there as well. I'll get on to Luke's question. I personally don't care if the house is if it's a house, a townhouse, a unit, a villa, a house, whatever it is. I'm looking for the property to perform a task for me. So if the property is below market value, has upside for capital growth, has strong cash flow, and is going to perform that specific task, I will make it happen. I've got units in a block of 6. I've got individual houses. I've got acreage. I've got blocks of units. Got shopping centres. Got motels, and I do also have individual units in blocks of up to 800 units in a block, and I'm fine to invest in all of them. Question I always ask people when they ask me, should I buy a unit or a house, whatever the case may be, is if I said to you, I've got $100,000 here ready for you to come pick it up, and when you get here, you are faced with a big pile of 1, 2, and 5 cent pieces, would you have the shits, right? Reality of it is, you take it in the bank and cash it in, it's still $100,000. So you're looking for the outcome and the result, not necessarily, those little parameters of, most people focus too much on the property, where it's more so, how's that property going to get me to where I want to be? So I'm not too fussed on that front. Robbie, hey Nathan, do you think property price will double by 2025? I think we're at the very early stages of a property boom, and it will be one of the biggest booms that we see in our lifetime. It will be a massive, massive boom that we're going to see. As for will it double? I don't know. Some areas in the country, right, at the start of this year, I just saw a message here by Felice. Hope you're doing well, mate. As for it just made me think about, I saw Felice somewhere over New Year's, and on my journey, I went and stopped into a place twice. When I stopped into this place, I was looking at a property, and they were like $60,000, and I've been picking up in this place for $60,000 for maybe 3 years. The market used to be like $400,000-500,000. The market was severely damaged, and this time, like right now in time, you can't buy for under $140,000 in this place. So the property prices there have gone up from $60,000, which I did actually buy on that trip for one of my investors. $60,000. Now there's nothing under $130,000. So with it, some property prices in Australia have doubled in 2020, in the first 6 months of 2020. So it is there is areas that are doubling already. The greater market, will that double by 2025? I think we'll see a large boom. I'm not expecting to crash anymore. I told you guys, some of you that are watching that are new around here, don't think I'm a property spook, I don't think I'm a doomsayer. You never know what's going to come out of my mouth, but I will give you before knowledge to know what to expect. And I personally feel that we are in the boom phase. We're in the early stages of that boom. We're in a downward pressure between 17 and 19, or 16 and 19, and we have seen a good leg up in that property boom throughout Corona. And I predict that that will continue as we just continue to print more and more money and make it easier for people to obtain. Nate, you charge a premium too, bro. I don't know what that is. I'm assuming to do with the precious metals and all that sort of stuff we're talking about beforehand. Rob, are there different zoning rules from suburb to suburb within the same council, or is uniform to all suburbs in that council? Hey Rob, hope you're doing well. I was actually talking to, following up from our chat the other day, just regarding finance from our chat. So yeah, I've got some news for you on that. Good news, that is. Yeah, are there different zoning rules from suburb to suburb within the council? There can be. So just depending on where, like the zoning rules would apply to that council. So if it's like R1, R2, R3, R4, B1, B2, RU1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they're the same zoning rules, but there would be different zoning requirements. So one house beside the next house could be two different types of zoning. One might be a RU1, one might be an RU6, one might be an R2, one might be an R3 and R4, and you'd only find that out from council. So some zonings will allow for units, some will allow for townhouses, some will allow for only houses, some won't allow for anything. So yeah, it's important to check with your council as to what's there. Harpreet, are you buying in Perth at the moment for yourself? That is a good question, right? I show videos of different locations that I go to. I'd love to answer that question for you. However, I'm going to leave that one as a mythical surprise for everybody. My investors that I purchase for know exactly where I'm buying. So I'm buying nationally, but as for specifics, I'm not sharing so much on exactly what I'm buying at, because people try and copy me and use all my free data to. I'm not saying that you're going to do that, just like all my people that hang on and try and copy my business model and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll leave that one to think about a bit more. But I'm not saying it's bad over there. I'm not saying it's good. But Rob, great to get your thoughts on if the next investment property should be bought and put into personal name or trust, pros and cons, better security. Good question, Rob. I think I just answered that beforehand. But yeah, if you need specifics as to whether you should put your next property into a trust or into your personal name or into a corporate structure, feel free to reach out my team. Happy to help out where we can. Harpreet, have you got any property management firm in Perth to manage properties? I don't have in Perth at the moment. I'm just getting my corporation license and all that sort of stuff sorted for that to manage over in Perth, because I'm taking it national. So even in Melbourne, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Queensland, national. So all the way, the whole of Queensland, I cover property management in. The whole of New South Wales, I cover property management in. So if you have a property in New South Wales or Queensland, I can manage them for you. In Victoria, Adelaide, Perth, Canberra, and Northern Territory, I will be getting into very, very shortly. Lynn, please stop saying that word is a scam. As an emergency nurse, I can assure that it's not. Lynn, I'm not saying that the sickness is a scam, just saying that they're using it to mop the floor. So I believe that there's other. I've never once said that that there isn't a sickness out there. I'm not saying that people aren't getting injured, dying, sick, nothing like that. I just personally feel that it is being used for many other sort of political plays. This is my opinion, and not meaning to offend or rub anyone the wrong way. However, I believe that it is something that's being used to mop the floor from many other different areas. the hand that we're not seeing. Riot, do you buy many properties in South Australia? Own a few properties in South Australia. If the opportunity stacks up there, yes, I do buy there. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of South Australia. There's other states that I'm seeing that are much more greater at this point in time. And don't forget the portion sizes have gotten smaller. Yes, your Big Mac meal is very, very small, and it's getting smaller and smaller. The virus kills less people than the suicide rate at this time. Young, desperate people lost for hope for their future. Yes, I think that's something that doesn't get talked enough out there. How many people are suiciding? How many people are, got problems with their own personal lives, can't deal with the fear? Seeing so many people every time I walk out of the shops, I see these people that are like, just, did you watch the news? Did you watch the news? Right? And I'm like, the news is a scam, right? The news is a scam. The TV is a scam. The media is a scam. What's coming through with all of the media that's out there is a scam. It's there to push an agenda, a very fascist, totalitarian, and commie sort of agenda. Hugh, Harry Dent, and Rob Kiyosaki are saying property is fucked because of the word with the 19. It is their opinion, only US centric. Some people are saying that. I don't see it here in Australia. There are many different levers for us to pull here. Do I feel that property market is in a bubble? No. If I did, I would have been selling off properties and telling you guys very clearly, which I did back in 2016 and 2017. The media loved to have, said Nathan's in money troubles and all these sorts of things back in 2017, which I was very clear and open and transparent, and I was selling some properties, and I even gave them interviews about it. So, but I'm not selling anything at the moment. Tommy jumped in saying, Lynn, he's not saying that it is a scam, it is real 100%. Nathan is referring to the way that it is introduced and spread. Treat the government's now justify reasoning to why the economy is in a depression. They blame this is not their incompetence. Exactly. Thanks, Tommy, for saying that. Dean, good chat. Look forward to hearing from you. Awesome, mate. Thanks for having here. The Rob said Venezuela's problems are because of the Yanks tariffs. Each country that has entered into a hyperinflation scenario, doesn't matter which country it has been, it has occurred from some form of corruption, manipulation of currency, and printing of money. So, is this something that will change? At this end, is it going to be something that's caused from tariffs? No, but all fiat currencies die the same painful death. Thanks for answering my question. My pleasure. Dan, I hope you're doing well. I'm doing awesome, mate. Unless it's already possible, do you think we'll be able to purchase property directly with Bitcoin in the near future, so we can skip the AUD? I think that it's actually settlement houses out there. This is something I was thinking about beforehand. A few years ago, I was building sort of like a settlement house for settling properties and being like one of the law firms in the country that could settle directly with cryptocurrencies. There are sort of channels where you can swap and settle property, settle bills and stuff with. So there may be an option to do so. I'd always be open for a laugh and saying, yeah, I'll swap a cryptocurrency for a property, or there's different ways actually thinking about it. There is many different ways on how you can, realize those funds, and there could be some interesting tax perspectives that I've thought about in my head, but none of them are anything I've ever tried to put into fruition or would ever sort of, go into to explain to people. So, but yeah, I'm assuming it would be really, really cool. You fun out of driving cars in the trees, legend. Yes, not saying everyone should go and run trees down, but when I say trees, I use them as more of a way of clearing land. So look at Nate, no charging premium question. No, I mean, talk about property spruikers charging a premium. You do the same for your clients. You charge 10 grand to find a property. No difference between a spruiker than your company. Look, yeah, with I'm not saying I'm a spruiker, but looking at how when I buy properties, like I buy properties that are below market value. So when someone's buying a property that I source for them, um, seeing questions coming through. With it, there's a lot of people out there at the moment trying to sort of spruik property. There's new gurus coming out every day of the week. From my side of things, I charge a fee for when I source a property. I locate properties off market, on market, below market value. Every property that I buy is below market value. When my investors buy a property, they're saying yes or no to make it 30 grand, 40 grand, 50 grand. Send all the collateral so you can see the value in the properties that you're buying. I charge a fee. There's my fee for my service, to run my business, to run the B.Invested group of companies. Very open and transparent. What I don't like out there is these people that sort of dress up and say that they're a property expert and they're a guru, but they're getting underhand commissions and all that sort of stuff. So be very mindful of that. I've got a jet very shortly, so I'm going to take 3 more questions here before I head off. Luke, hey Birchie, with the delays in financing at the moment, what type of clause should be added to the contract of sale to allow for delays to prevent settlement from falling over? Thanks for all the great content. Awesome. There's all different clauses that I install into my contracts when I locate and negotiate properties on behalf of my investors. I've got a list of different clauses and special conditions that I put in. If you'd like, flick us a message. I can put you in contact with my legal department. They can help you out on that front. I get Stephen from Zenith Legal to have a chat with you as to what you could put into that contract. So every state's got different laws and regulations in relation to protecting yourself during the cooling off period and the settlement period of your property. So, Chu. Hi Nathan, you just mentioned you own blocks of units. Is it more costly to maintain compared to individual houses? A block of units compared to a house, there is more cost. Generally, you have to pay for the maintenance and the lawns and stuff like that. I have houses, units, like individual units, and then I have blocks of units commonly across the theme of my portfolio. They all have different levels of risks and benefits to them. A lot of people say, I want to own blocks of units. And I was like, that's good. But, as I was saying about those big 1,000-ounce bars of silver, right? If you have a big bar of silver, let's say you've got a kilo of gold. A kilo of gold trades at it'd be like the size of your iPhone Max sort of size, with the size of a gold bar. To sell something like that, it's about $100,000 to sell a gold bar at the moment. If that doubles or triples, that could be $250,000, $500,000 to sell that gold bar. However, if you had a little 1 ounce gold bar, you could sell it more freely to people. You'd have more market there in order to sell that to, because it'd be like 2 grand, 3 grand, 5 grand, 10 grand. So when it comes down to having 1 unit versus a whole block of units, you're limiting your market, so there's an extra level of risk surrounding owning a whole block of units. So cash flow may be better because you're not paying strata fees and stuff, but strata fees generally cover upkeep of the building, upkeep of the maintenance, paying the building insurance, all that sort of stuff. So it's not a total waste. A lot of people look at strata fees as being a waste of money. I actually find it to be a great way of saving costs as well. So there's pros and cons to that, and the banks will look at it. There's different ways that the banks look at it as well. Justin, Darwin sounds great. So I know Justin, shout out if anyone's looking at doing a build. Justin owns a large building company up there in Darwin, and if you're thinking of building and whatnot, reach out to Justin. I've had chats with him offline personally, and he does building up there, and I think he's doing awesome stuff up there. So no affiliation, just a plug and a shout out there for you, Justin. So Dennis, hey Nathan, do you still have those blocks of 1,000 square meters for 14 grand? I think you said a while ago. Were they New South Wales? What is the rental yield? Yes, I have blocks of land. I've got 3 properties available at the moment. One is $17,000. These are just like those little scrappy ones. I've got all different properties that I buy for my investors constantly. I've got I had one the other day for like 14,000, but I don't have that anymore. I got one at 17,000, which is about 2,000 square meters of land, which is like close to a capital city, like relatively close. And I've got a unit for $15,000. Right? I'm just going to leave that there with that unit. $15,000 for a unit. It's the cheapest property in Australia. If you want a unit for $15,000, reach out. First in, best dressed on that front. I just taken a investor off that today, and they'll take it too long. And yeah, I took them off there. So if you know who you are, I had to reallocate that. So yeah, if someone wants that, that's cool. If you, oh yeah, so how much would the rental in yield be if you'd have a house on it? Maybe like $200 a week. So with the $17,000 block of land that I'm talking about, you could possibly move a house to it for maybe 50, 60,000. I'm in the process at the moment. I'm in the process of speaking to a house removal company. I did one a few years ago. Everyone was like, "Wow, that's cool." Basically, what I did is I put a house in the back of a truck, and moved it from about 20 kilometers into a new property. I I picked up the house, placed it on the block of land. I bought the land for 80 grand in Western Sydney. I put the house on it for about 60 grand. I was into it for, let's call it 150 grand. I sold it for 420,000, and rent on it's like 350 a week. I drove past it the other day and I was like, fuck, that looks a bit rough, but I still sold it for 420 grand, and the person's really happy, and the property probably worth $500,000 now. I've just started chats to put 5 removable houses on 4 blocks of land. So I've got one that burnt down. My Queensland staff are going to be like, "What the hell are you going to do that, Nathan?" But yes, I'm looking at putting 3 houses in the backyard of my neighbouring properties, 1 house in the backyard of the one that burnt down, and 1 in the front yard. So yeah, with it, you could move something maybe about $50,000-$60,000 to put on there. So if you could buy the land for 17 grand, move a house at say $60,000, you'd be into it for about $80,000. And there's the cheapest house in this area is about $180,000. So there is a property like that at the moment if you would be interested. Luke, hey Nathan, are you still on the Gold Coast? How are those apartments in that high rise in Southport you bought 6 years back for well below market value doing? Saw you drinking pina colada. Good to see a Vault video on this. Good question. Yes, I bought some properties in Southport Central. It's in the heart of Surfers Paradise there. I bought them for about 240,000 for the cheapest one to about 320. They were selling off the plan originally for about 600,000. I picked them up for half that. I think some of my investors sold them for like 480s and 500s and that sort of level. So everyone's done well out of them. They've got good depreciation and a strong rental return. They've got a high strata, but the cash flow well and truly covers that. So yeah, I might do a video out there. I was actually out there last week. When I was in the Gold Coast, not in the Gold Coast at the moment, but when I was out there, I took a video. I should have taken a video, but I did go out there to the property. So, Justin, appreciate the feedback, mate, and the love, mate. So, just sort of do that shout out for you. Lindsay, deals of the week. Off the top of your head, I'm all ears. I don't have all of my deals here. It was just that I was asked about those properties that were cheap. I've got 3. One's 15 grand, one's 17 grand, and some other cheapie around that. Got some good bargains in Sydney, in blue chip locations. I just put one away for an investor today, which was 289,000 in Sydney for a 2-bedder. And I just did a property that was in the city region for mid 500s. And valuations came in around the 650, 700 grand range. So yeah, some deals out there, and a few off markets in Queensland. I've got some really good buys when I was up in the Gold Coast and Brisbane last week. So if you're interested, reach out to my team. Happy to help out where I can. Yeah, cool. So I've got one last thing, and I'll answer this one. It's from Harpreet. Because I've seen some bad reviews on your service, Nathan, that people get promised cheap houses, but they're actually not livable and couldn't rent out for a while, and they could not get a hold of you, no replies from you and your team, and lose money. Jay had a chat Patrick and was pretty good, so just got really confused. Definitely don't want to end up in that sort of situation. I answer good news, bad news, and all of in between. So what you've got to look at is I've been running B.Invested now for about 10, 11 years now this year. I've had lots of success stories. There's thousands of people that have had awesome results. There's been, maybe on two hands that I could count where there's been some sort of issue, whether it be communication or whatever the case may be over the years. Those people haven't written me bad reviews. I've always sorted it out as a gentleman. People that know me know that I'll be open and straight and say things as they are and deal with things as problems arise. However, in business, especially with my profile, I get terrorists out there and I don't negotiate with terrorists. So I have had 2, 3 people, there's probably like 3 people out there which came out this year, and maybe because Nathan's a happy character, maybe because he says some stuff that's out there, I might rub people up the wrong way and they want to get money out of me, right? And they've told me that if I don't pay them money, that they will put a bad review. And that's cool, right? And these people, I generally sue them and they pay me, a cheap unit in compensation. And, it's just things that happen sometimes. So, but rest assured, there's thousands and thousands of people that have helped out. And, there's lots and lots of really beautiful stories out there in the community. You will find on my Google reviews that I've got sort of 3 negative reviews. Go and read them. I encourage everybody to go read them because some of them are humorous out there. One guy, Isaac, he got 3 of his mates to go and write negative reviews, which never had any business with the company. In the process of taking some legal action on him at the moment. He never lost any money. Rest assured, the guy did not lose money. He had a tenant that trashed his property. We got him a full renovation for free in his property, and he wanted a refund of his management fees. And there was an issue and a further story behind that. I could go into further detail and actually talk about these people's personal positions, which I kind of feel like I want to, but I'm not actually going to do that just because I'd rather take him and get him to sue him and get some good money out of him. But on that note, I can't make everyone happy. I've got 3 people there that tried to extort me. They've written bad reviews, and I had a crazy ex that tried to make stuff up online once. Rest assured, if I did bad things, people can sue me, people can go to fair trading, people can do all that sort of stuff. Out of 10 years in business, being a part of 10,000 plus real estate transactions, seeing 3 bad reviews online, I don't think it's too bad. And if I could ask, if people do like what I do out there, people appreciate the content I put out there, all the time and effort and energy that I put out there, if you could go online, have a look at those Google reviews, Be.Invested, and if you could leave me a positive review if you like what I do. If you don't like me, think I'm a dick, write a negative review, and good luck to you, right? But if you could, give us a smash up the like there and share and be able to, write your experience with me, that'd be really appreciative. So, thanks for that. If I can help you out, Harpreet, happy to. If not, that's cool. If you don't feel comfortable doing business with, that's fine. Keep learning and keep being a part of the community, and happy to help out. Cool. So, Costa, you're awesome, mate. Thanks for the thumbs up. Jono, thanks for the feedback. Nate just wrote cheap unit in compensation. I say there's a joke because I'll sue the people. So, yeah. The crazy ex, yes. Someone wrote the ex delete the crazy content. Let's not give it too much life, eh? So, looks like you're in a ransom video. Dan Andrews get you. So look, it's I've had people that try and hold me at ransom. I don't do terrorism too well. I actually just realised I had these cool bat lights. Always I'll just mail. It's just on my table. People try and hold me hostage. I don't do that. I don't do it too well. So just for people out there, I don't do that. I'm open. I'm transparent. I've got nothing to lose. I've got nothing to gain. I have fun out of life. and I like to be very clear and transparent on that stuff. So yeah, if you are concerned about it, if you don't know anything about my Google reviews, I'm probably giving it a life. If you like, if you like what I put out there, yeah, please go and give me a good Google review and your experience with me and my business. That'd be awesome. So yeah, so yeah, so on that note, guys, thanks a lot for checking in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for having me a part of your viewing and of your family this evening as you're home or your work or your office or your mobile or wherever you're watching from. Thanks a lot. Keep being awesome. I'll be back next Tuesday, 8 o'clock. And if you've got any questions, feel free to write them through to my team. Send the messages through. I'll try and have some topics to talk about. It's always great to get your guys' feedback so I can deliver the content that's going to help you get to where you want to be in life. So stay safe, guys. Be careful of your communist dictator leaders out there, and we'll catch up soon. Bye for now.